Hello my hero, have a nice viewing dear. If you like the story, please like it and write your opinion in the comments, please please please.
He thought I'd shake his hand. Instead, I destroyed his life. I've never been the type to yell or punch walls. I don't scream. I don't cry. I just remember. And I plan. My name is Alex. I'm 38. I've been married for 12 years. My wife, Leah, and I raised our son, Max, with everything we had: elite schools, after-school activities, piano lessons, robotics camp. We gave him the kind of childhood we never had. There was a teacher at his school, Mr. Jason Hall. Young. Charismatic. The kind of guy parents liked because he connected with students. Max admired him. Talked about him constantly. I didn't pay much attention. I thought it was great that he had a role model. I never suspected a thing. Not at first. Then, little things started to change. Leah began dressing up more before school meetings. She bought lingerie I'd never seen her wear. She'd stay late, discussing Max's progress, or helping with school projects. At home, she was distant. Cold. Her touches mechanical. Her kisses dry. One night, her phone lit up. She was in the shower. I glanced down. A message from JH. I can still smell you. Today's lesson was unforgettable. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I didn't even blink. I just started watching. She had no idea I was listening to every word, every message, every photo. She told him things she hadn't told me in years. Called him sunshine. The last time she called me anything sweet, I couldn't even remember. Turns out, their affair wasn't new. It had been going on for over 2 years. Jason Hall. My son's teacher. My wife's lover. For 2 years. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger is loud. I prefer quiet. So I played the fool. I cooked dinner. I kissed her goodnight. I packed Max's lunches. All while building my case. Then, 2 weeks ago, Jason asked to meet. Alone. We sat down at a local cafe. He looked confident, like he was doing me a favor. I care about Leah, he said. I didn't want to keep lying. You deserve the truth. He looked proud of himself. Like he expected me to thank him. He continued, this doesn't have to be ugly. We're not monsters. We just fell in love. I stirred my coffee. Looked at him. Smiled. I see, I said. Thank you for your honesty. And then I stood up, shook his hand, and walked out. But what Jason didn't know was this. I already had everything I needed to burn his career to the ground. He confessed, expecting grace. What he got was calculated ruin. I went home that day without saying a word to Leah. She was in the kitchen, pretending life was normal, stirring pasta, humming some meaningless tune. I smiled, kissed her cheek, and asked about Max's homework. She had no idea her lover had just handed me the weapon I'd used to destroy them both. You see, Jason Hall made one fatal mistake. He assumed I was weak. But I don't just survive betrayal. I engineer consequences. First, I reached out to a friend of mine, Noah. He's an IT consultant who used to work cybersecurity for the school district. A few favors, a few beers, and I had access to more than I should have. Emails. Classroom logs. Even Jason's work-issued tablet. And what I found? Photos. Messages. Some sent during school hours. Some, while he was supposed to be supervising students. Screenshots. Timestamps. Geolocations. All legally collected. All damning. I didn't tell Leah. Not yet. She thought she was in control. Thought she was managing the situation, juggling her family and her secret life like some sort of romance novel protagonist. But I was writing a different ending. One evening, while she was at a PTA meeting, I sat Max down gently. I asked him a few innocent questions about Mr. Hall. Do you like him? Yeah, he's cool. Does he ever talk to Mom at school? Max shrugged. Sometimes. They're always laughing. Always laughing. I smiled. Okay, buddy. That's all. The next step? An anonymous email. Not to the school. Not yet. To the school board. Subject: inappropriate relationship between staff and parent. Inside, carefully compiled evidence. Blurred images for legal protection. Message logs. A summary timeline of interactions. A request for an internal ethics review. Within 48 hours, I got confirmation. An investigation was quietly opened. And Jason? He still smiled in the hallways. Still walked around campus like the golden boy of the social studies department. He had no idea his clock had started ticking. Leah remained oblivious too. She'd gotten bolder, leaving for late yoga, slipping on new lingerie under oversized sweaters. She even started texting him in our living room, right next to me. But I didn't flinch. Because I wasn't just watching anymore. I was closing in. You don't sleep with another man's wife and keep your teaching license. By the third week, Jason's name was quietly circulating in school admin circles. I knew this because of Claire. Claire works in the front office at the school, middle-aged, polite, with a memory like a steel trap. A few months back, I helped her husband fix his busted laptop. That simple favor bought me something far more valuable than money: loyalty. Something's going on with Mr. Hall, she whispered one morning when I dropped Max off. The principal had 2 closed-door meetings with HR this week. I played dumb. Really? Wonder what that's about. Claire just gave me a look. Rumor is, it involves a parent. Perfect. That afternoon, I forwarded the evidence packet again, this time to 3 local education reporters. All anonymously, of course. I used a VPN. New email. No trace. And then I waited. The first ripple came as a question at the next PDA meeting. Has the school conducted any recent reviews of faculty conduct? Silence. Shifting chairs. Nervous glances. Leah was there, of course. Sitting in the 3rd row. Nodding like she was just another concerned parent. I almost laughed. But I didn't. Because I knew what was coming. The next day, Jason called me. I answered with a calm "Hey." His voice was tight. Did you tell anyone? I paused. Let the silence stretch. Then I said, I told the truth. Something you clearly struggle with. He started to speak, but I hung up. That night, Leah came home early. She looked shaken. Said there was some drama at school, people whispering, an emergency meeting called for faculty. I stirred my tea. Really? About what? She hesitated. Then shrugged. No idea. Probably nothing. She was lying to my face. And I let her. Because the storm hadn't even landed yet. The next morning, the story broke. Local news ran a short but devastating piece. School investigates alleged inappropriate teacher-parent relationship. No names. No faces. Just speculation. But Jason knew. And so did Leah. I watched her read the article on her phone, her hands trembling just slightly. What is it? I asked, sipping my coffee. She turned the screen away. Oh, nothing. Just school gossip. Liar. She had no idea that Jason's contract was already under review. She had no idea that the reporter who ran the story? She was having lunch with me next week. And she definitely had no idea what I was planning next. He wanted to be the hero of his own confession. Instead, I made him the headline of a scandal. By Monday morning, the story had grown legs. A second article dropped, this time quoting an anonymous whistleblower with access to communication logs. The school board released a statement confirming an internal investigation into potential violations of conduct involving a staff member and a parent of a current student. Still no names. But people weren't stupid. Teachers talk. Students hear. Parents speculate. By Tuesday, Jason Hall was placed on Administrative leave pending review. The golden boy had been benched. I walked past the school gates that day with Max. A few parents stood huddled in whispering clusters. One of them gave me a strange look, half suspicious, half impressed. Like they knew. I didn't care. Let them guess. Let the whole city wonder. At dinner that night, Leah barely touched her food. She looked pale. They suspended a teacher today, she muttered, trying to sound casual. Oh yeah? I said, cutting into my steak. Who? She swallowed. Jason. I stopped, set down my fork. Let the moment stretch. Why? She didn't answer right away. They didn't say. Just rumors, something about crossing boundaries. I looked at her. Really looked at her. That's serious, I said softly. I hope it's not true. She nodded, eyes down. But I saw the guilt rise in her throat like bile. That night, she cried in the shower. I didn't ask why. She thought she was mourning him. What she didn't know was that she was mourning herself, the version of her life that was about to go up in flames. Because I wasn't done. Not even close. The next day, I paid a visit to the district superintendent's office. Not as myself, of course. I was Mr. Allen, an education consultant requesting information about faculty disciplinary actions and tenure review policies. Harmless questions. Just enough to keep the pressure boiling. Then I delivered the kill shot. An untraceable envelope. Sent directly to the superintendent's assistant. Inside, printed screenshots of suggestive texts between Leah and Jason. Handwritten notes. Times. Locations. A short cover letter. If this is who educates our children, what else is being hidden? No return address. No fingerprints. Just fire. She thought I didn't know. But I knew everything, down to the lace she wore for him. The morning after Jason's suspension, Leah was quieter than usual. She barely looked at me during breakfast. I asked if she was okay. She forced a smile. Just tired. I nodded. Rough week at school, huh? Her eyes flickered, just for a second. That's when I knew the paranoia had begun. She was spiraling. And I was going to watch every inch of it. Later that day, I made a very specific call. I'd been working with a lawyer, quietly, discreetly. Not for divorce. Not yet. For custody strategy. Because here's the part they never talk about in affairs: the collateral damage. Our son. Max. The only innocent person in this mess. I wasn't just going to destroy Jason's career. I was going to take Leah's credibility, and with it, her ability to ever speak over me in court. But first, I needed her to lie to me again. That night, while we were watching TV, I asked the question she never saw coming. Hey, I said casual. You and Jason ever close? You always talk so highly of him. She blinked. Froze. The show kept playing, but I watched her. She shook her head. No. I mean, he's Max's teacher. That's all. I nodded, smiling to myself. That was the moment she perjured herself in front of the wrong man. Because now I had her lies on record. You see, I'd installed a discreet home security system 2 months earlier. Audio-enabled. Synced to my cloud account. Completely legal. And completely damning. The next morning, I added that file to my archive. Timestamped. Clear. My wife, denying an affair that was already public knowledge. Later that week, Leah got the call she'd been dreading. Jason wanted to talk. She went to meet him at a quiet diner on the edge of town. I already knew this because I had her car tagged. My phone buzzed when she parked. And just like that, I was already sitting in the back booth when she walked in. She didn't see me. But I saw everything. She sat across from him, arms folded. He looked panicked. Desperate. She looked exhausted. I recorded the whole thing from my seat behind the frosted glass. I'm going to lose my job, he whispered. You already lost it, she snapped. Did you tell anyone? Of course not, she said. Another lie. Another entry in the file. Then he dropped the bomb. I think it was your husband. Her face strained. I wish I could have bottled that moment. He wouldn't, she stammered. Jason leaned forward. He would. He's smarter than he lets on. For once, the man got something right. The day she looked me in the eyes and realized I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her executioner. When Leah came home from that diner, she didn't speak a word. She set her keys down, took off her coat, went straight to the bathroom and locked the door. I listened to the water run, probably staring at herself in the mirror, trying to recognize the woman in the reflection. She didn't know I was already steps ahead of her. The next morning, I scheduled a surprise meeting with the principal of Max's school. I was just a concerned father, asking about the influence of certain faculty. I played dumb, naive, expressed shock at the rumors, asked if other parents should be worried. They assured me it was being handled. Perfect. That same day, I made my second legal move. A preliminary custody petition. No fanfare. No threats. Just quiet preparation. The file I submitted included evidence of Leah's extramarital affair, proof the affair took place around school grounds, audio recordings of her denying it in front of our child, a psychologist's statement outlining the emotional impact on minors witnessing household betrayal. It was thorough. It was cold. It was devastating. And it wasn't even public yet. Leah began to crumble in small, beautiful ways. She became jumpy around Max, overly affectionate. Desperate for normalcy. Movie night, just the two of us. Let's bake cookies. Want to go to the zoo this weekend? She was trying to fix a shattered mirror with glue sticks. I didn't stop her. One night, as she tucked Max into bed, I watched her from the hallway. She kissed his forehead, whispered something, and held him a little too long. She saw me watching. Her face flushed. He's just been quiet lately, she said. He's learning how to see people for who they really are, I replied. She flinched. The next morning, I left a single sheet of paper on the kitchen counter. It wasn't a divorce filing. Not yet. It was a full-page printout of one of her messages to Jason. Wish you could hold me tonight instead of him. No note. No signature. Just that. When she saw it, she nearly dropped her coffee mug. Alex, she whispered. I didn't look at her. I simply said, you don't have to lie anymore. But you will answer for it. Then I walked out the door. She thought the worst had passed. That no one would know. She was wrong. Now everyone knew. It started with a PDA Facebook post. A parent, anonymous, but clearly plugged in, asked, anyone else concerned about the teacher-parent scandal we keep hearing about? Rumors are flying. The district's being quiet. Within an hour, the thread exploded. By the end of the day, Leah was tagged in 3 speculative posts. One even uploaded a blurred screenshot from the original article. The silhouette? Unmistakably hers. Then came the texts. The phone calls. The messages from her coworkers. From friends. Is this about you and Jason? Please tell me that article isn't real. Leah, what did you do? Her face, once smug and composed, now looked hollow. That night she sat across from me at the dinner table, saying nothing. I ate in silence, letting the weight of it all sit between us like a ticking bomb. Finally she spoke. They know, she whispered. I kept eating. I didn't think it would come to this. I put my fork down calmly. You didn't think, period. She clenched her jaw. You did this. Didn't you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She stood, hands shaking. What are you trying to do? Ruin my life? I met her eyes. You ruined it yourself. I'm just making sure you don't walk away clean. She broke then. Tears. Rage. Pleading. All in the span of 30 seconds. I made a mistake. She choked. No. I said coldly. You made a choice. And now you're going to live with it. She stormed out, slamming the bedroom door like a child who just lost control of the game. But I wasn't done. That same night, Jason's termination became official. I saw the email before Leah did, leaked to a community group. Due to violations of professional conduct and boundary guidelines, Mr. Hall's contract has been terminated effective immediately. He lost his job, his reputation, his future in education. And Leah? She'd just become the woman who slept with her son's teacher. But the worst for her was yet to come. Because tomorrow, she'd find out about the custody filing. She betrayed me as a wife. But what shattered her was losing me as a father. The custody notice was delivered at 9:07 a.m. I timed it that way on purpose, just after Max left for school, just before Leah left for work. I wanted her alone. I wanted silence in the house when she opened that envelope. I wanted her to feel it. I wasn't there when she read it. But I didn't need to be. Claire told me she came into the school office later that morning looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Pale. Hair messy. No makeup. Like someone who'd seen the future, and hated what she saw. The notice was short and surgical. Petition for primary custody. Filed by Alexander Ward. Reason: emotional instability and behavior unfit for co-parenting. Evidence attached: audio recordings, written statements, character witness logs. She didn't even know who half the character witnesses were. But I did. A neighbor who saw Jason's car outside our house late at night. A teacher who overheard hallway conversations. A parent who saw Leah and Jason sharing a drink after hours, when she said she was running errands. All of them, quiet allies. All of them, pieces of my quiet war. When I picked Max up from school that day, he climbed into the car and asked, "Dad, why did Mr. Hall leave?" I glanced in the mirror. Sometimes adults do stupid things. And there are consequences. He nodded. Thought about it. Then said, "I'm glad you're not stupid." I smiled. Me too, buddy. That night, Leah tried to act normal. She cooked dinner. Made Max's favorite, chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. The same ones I used to make when he was 6. She sat down, nervously watching him eat. "Do you still want to go to the aquarium this weekend?" she asked, smiling. Max didn't answer. He looked at me instead. "I think I want to stay with Dad this weekend." Leah's smile cracked, just slightly. "Why, honey?" He shrugged. "He just listens more." I didn't say a word. Neither did she. After Max went to bed, Leah followed me into the hallway. Her face was flushed, eyes burning. "You're turning him against me," she hissed. "No," I said calmly. "You did that all by yourself." She was trembling. "He's my son. He's our son. And I'm not letting him grow up thinking betrayal is normal." She slapped the wall beside me, hard. "You're not perfect, Alex." "No," I agreed. "But I didn't screw our kid's teacher." She recoiled like I'd hit her. And then, finally, she broke. Not with screaming. Not with sobbing. Just a whisper. "I don't want to lose him." I looked at her. "You already did." She thought she could survive this by pretending it didn't happen. But her silence only made the fall louder. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't stop at the bedroom. It seeps into every part of a life. Every friendship. Every interaction. Every mirror. Leah tried to keep up the facade at first. She went to work. Smiled at people. Posted throwback photos with Max on Instagram like nothing had happened. She even tagged me in one, captioned, "Family is everything." I didn't respond. But others did. Comments started showing up. Bold post. "After everything? Is this the same family you threw away?" And just like that, the lie cracked publicly. She deleted the post. Then her whole account. But the damage was done. I found out from Claire that the other moms at school had started avoiding her. At first, it was subtle. No eye contact in the parking lot. No smiles at the PTA table. Then it became colder. She was removed from the volunteer group chat. Her name was taken off the field trip coordination list. She wasn't even invited to her best friend's baby shower. People whispered, but no one stood beside her. Her job didn't fare much better. She worked in educational marketing for a local nonprofit, branding, school events, family outreach. When the board caught wind of her affair with a faculty member, they scheduled a formal review. 1 week later she was transitioned out of her role. A gentle way of saying, fired without a press release. I only learned this when she came home early, unannounced, midweek. She walked in quietly, dropped her purse on the floor, sat on the couch like she was made of glass. "What now?" I asked, not looking up. "They let me go." I nodded. "Expected that." Silence. Then she whispered, "You've taken everything from me." I finally looked at her. "No. You gave it away. Piece by piece. Smile by smile. Text by text." Tears welled up. "So that's it? No forgiveness? No future?" I leaned forward, voice steady. "Forgiveness? Maybe someday, for me, not for you. Future? Sure. Just not with us in it." She opened her mouth to speak. But I was done listening. I stood up and walked out, just like she walked out of our marriage long before Jason ever touched her. Only difference? I wasn't coming back. She left me with a broken heart. I left her with nothing to break. The court date came quicker than she expected. Custody hearings are rarely dramatic. But this one? This one felt biblical. Leah showed up with carefully styled hair and a trembling smile. She wore a beige blazer, like she thought dressing like a school principal would erase what she did. I wore black. No emotion. No expression. Just documentation. The judge didn't even let the hearing stretch too long. My lawyer presented the evidence, calmly, professionally, like reading a grocery list. The affair. The texts. The abuse of school boundaries. The emotional trauma to our son. Her denial, on record. Her lawyer tried to argue. Emotional distress. Tried to say she was lonely and overwhelmed. But the judge? He cut right through the noise. "This is not about mistakes. This is about accountability. The child deserves a stable, trustworthy environment. Primary custody awarded to the father." Boom. She didn't cry until we got outside. Not a single tear in the courtroom. But the second those courthouse doors closed behind her, it poured. She ran after me in the parking lot, mascara streaking. "Please, Alex. Don't take him from me." I turned slowly. Calm. Cold. "You had him. You had me. You had everything." She collapsed into a sob, right there in front of the reporters. Yes, they were there too. Word had gotten out. Cameras were waiting. One even snapped a photo, her on the pavement, hands covering her face. That photo went viral in the local community. Caption: "Former school liaison loses custody in scandalous affair with teacher." It was over. Jason disappeared from town soon after. No job. No license. Rumor had it, he moved back in with his parents. Fitting. He always acted like a teenager anyway. Leah stayed. Alone. A ghost in a house that used to feel like home. As for me? I moved. Max and I started fresh in a quiet neighborhood where no one knew my story. Just a man and his son rebuilding something real. I started a small business. Something I'd put off for years. I even met someone. Not a whirlwind romance. Not fireworks. Just peace. She never asked what happened. She just looked me in the eyes one night and said, "You seem like someone who's been through hell, and chose not to stay there." I smiled. Because she was right.